Welcome back to Barefoot Bible. We're beginning a new vlog. I'm really excited about it. It's based on my latest book on Judges, and we're just calling it the Judges series. We finished the Revelation series, and if you missed any vlogs, you can go to Barefoot Bible on YouTube, choose a playlist, and then Revelation, and all 96 videos will be available there. They cover from Revelation 1:1 all the way to the end of Revelation. This is our initial vlog in the New Judges series, and it's titled After Joshua. It offers clear insights into the first verses 1 through 5. What did the Israelites do after Joshua died? What impact did his death have on them as they tried to finish settling the promised land? And so let's pick up in Judges chapter 1, verse 1. Now, after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, Who shall be first to go up for us against the Canaanites to fight against them? Now, chapter 1, 2, and all the way through chapter 3, verse 6 are a prelude or somewhat of an introduction to the book. The prelude looks back on the end of Joshua's leadership. In fact, it even repeats parts of the end of the book of Joshua. And it establishes, looking ahead, it establishes the need for the deliverers that the Jews called the Shoftim, or the judges. And the book begins then with Joshua's death. Now, after the death of Joshua. Joshua and Caleb, remember, were the two spies who actually came back from the promised land and said, hey, God will give us this. We can conquer them. The rest of the spies, the other 10, said there's no way we can do it. We're like grasshoppers in their eyes. Well, after wandering in the wilderness for about 40 years, Moses did not go on into the promised land. Joshua took them across the Jordan River back to the promised land, and with God's aid, they conquered and claimed it just as God said. So it kind of explains what made the group leading Israel during the time recorded in Judges uniquely persuasive, influential. Let's identify, though, this new group. It's really the third generation out of Egypt. So let's review those three generations. It's important that you understand the context of the book of Judges. The first generation, of course, is the Exodus generation, guided by Moses and Aaron. They escaped Egypt. They received the Torah, or the Hebrew Bible, including the Ten Commandments. Well, it's not the Hebrew Bible, it's the Torah. It's the first 5 books, and it includes the Ten Commandments inscribed on the stone tablets. However, when they spied out the land, their lack of faith prevented them from receiving God's blessing on conquering the promised land, so he sent them back into the wilderness. And I'd encourage you to survey books like Exodus all the way through Deuteronomy to learn more. Really Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers to learn more about that generation. And then, there's some images of Moses and the tablets of stone, and then the wilderness wanderings. Then the next generation I call the Promised Land generation. It's led by Joshua. And you can see him underneath his picture there with marching around Jericho, and the walls are falling down. So he leads them to conquer Canaan and take the territories that are allocated to each of the tribes. They reaffirm their commitment to obey the Torah. It emphasizes their need for faithfulness to the law. And you would read the book of Joshua to understand this second generation out of Egypt a little bit better. They did pretty well. Then there's the Judges generation. And at this point, they lacked a central leader. Moses is gone. Joshua has died. And so there's no central leader. There's no king. That'll be really the next phase, is the first of the kings. So, but this section we call the book of Judges covers 400 years of their history. Uh, their grandparents and parents had witnessed and experienced God's miraculous power in Egypt, and some while they wandered through the wilderness and in the promised land. These new leaders, though, this third generation, the Judges generation, they were the children when the last of the miracles had occurred. And now they're leaders of the 12 tribes. So our study of the book of Judges focuses on that third generation out of Egypt. So let's jump back over to verse 1 and remind ourselves, the Jews, if they were going to ask a question of the Lord, who shall go first? That involves them contacting Phinehas, the high priest at that time, and having him ask Jehovah which military force should attack first. So their immediate task was to complete the conquest and settling of the land. And so they're coming to the Lord for direction. Good move. Verses 2 and 3, and the Lord said, Judah shall go up. Indeed, I've delivered the land into his hand. So they got their answer. Verse 3, so Judah said to Simeon, his brother, now literally he was his brother, same mother, come up with me to my allotted territory that we may fight against the Canaanites, and I will likewise go with you to your allotted territory. And Simeon agreed and went with him. So Judah and Simeon's territories actually overlapped a bit, and it created a mutual beneficial arrangement for them. If you notice in the beginning of verse 2, and the Lord said, you see that all caps Lord? That's a special English word, and I think we've said something about this before. That word for Lord is Yahweh, and you can see it in the Hebrew. Start from the right and read to the left on the Hebrew part. It's the most sacred name for God to the Jews. It's a name they won't say in public out loud. Some call it, scholars call it the tetragrammaton. It means the four letters, YHVH. And it's a holy name for God. They rarely speak. Even when they're translating it, they often change the vowels. Instead of Yahweh, they'll say Jehovah. And that's a kind of a more recent development, though that hasn't always been that way. The name Yahweh means I am. You remember back in Exodus 3 when Moses asked, who do I tell him sent me? And God said that he was the I am, or the existing one. So the writer of Judges uses this name 3 times as often as he uses any other name for God. And let's move on to verse 4. And then Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and Perizzites into their hand. And they killed 10,000 men at Bezek, and they found their leader. They found Adonai Bezek in the capital, in Bezek, and fought against him and defeated the Canaanites and the Perizzites. So we begin this era with the tribe of Judah forming an alliance with another tribe and successfully defeating several of the enemies in that immediate area. We're going to learn more about Adonai Bezek. Next week, we are going to pick up with verse 6 and continue with some important background that many people have not studied. Jerusalem before the Jews. It wasn't called Jerusalem. And it's covered in verses 6 through 10. Look forward to that. Thanks for tuning in today for this first vlog in the Judges series. I hope that you'll tune back in next week.